All right, we are live here on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure you guys go ahead and share this video with everyone you know. Welcome to Candid Conversations. I am your host, Neek Speaks, better known as Shantanique Langston. I'm your personal and professional relationship coach. And tonight is a very special conversation we're going to have. And it's very sensitive, but we're going to try to make this a light conversation because it's so much we want to unpack and give you guys in regards to parenting your parents because the struggle is real. And
Yes.
so tonight I have three people that are, or three of my special people that are going to be on here with me, navigating through this journey together, sharing their stories and their heart, and also providing sound advice and wisdom on how to navigate through helping your parents or helping your siblings when it comes to mental health or also critical illness and what part you play. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and have everyone introduce themselves, starting with Auntie Tab.
Hi, I am Tabitha Goodner. Welcome, everybody. As Shantanique has stated, go ahead and invite your friends, invite your relatives, invite those in your household to come and gather around. It's a conversation I think that will impact and change perspective. It'll give you other options and strategies. I want to thank Shantanique for this opportunity. I'm very excited to share with my two co-hosts here who will help us navigate tonight. But I'm Tabitha. I'm here in Detroit, Michigan, a native of Indianapolis, Indiana. I am what you call the gift unwrapper. I believe that I was dropped in the earth to help people discover what God created them to do in the earth and to make great impact. That's who I am. That's what I do. And I am just here to encourage and to inspire. I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Go ahead, Troy.
I'm Troy Rawlings, comedian, host, author. I am originally from Baltimore, Maryland. I live in Los Angeles, California right now. I'm from Baltimore to Burbank. And I do produce content and shows and events. What brought me here is to see how my live show production skills translate into TV and film. Big part of my mission is to help men and women communicate better in love. And in doing that, it's things like this, like these conversations that open up a lot of not only dialogue, but open up a lot of newness in families, getting away from the silence that has jacked a lot of us up for so long. Yes. So I appreciate the fact that we can have some candid conversations with Neek.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, girl.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Latresa Rice, your certified mindset coach. I help bereaved Christians regain hope by rediscovering their identity and healing through writing. I am also a fully licensed clinician, LMSW, and I'm a motivational speaker and author, and I help others write their stories as they're healing. And I'm excited to be here. Let's just put it this way. We're all human beings. Despite our titles, we have dealt with different issues, and what better place to be able to share tips on how to overcome those things from this platform. So I just want to celebrate Neek Speaks. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share and empower those who are listening and following us and enjoying this discussion.
Yes.
Thank you all for saying yes to doing this because it's been on my heart to talk about this for quite some time now. And I know for me, I had to go through some, I would say, healing before I can even get to this point. Sure. And how I'm showing up, here for those who God has called me to do my conferences and to do this kind of conversation. What in the world did she, do to get to this point to where she's able to open up freely and to share with other people? So I will tell you guys, you have to heal. You can't share anything you haven't been delivered from or you haven't been healed from.
That's
and so right. I am a testament of that. So before we dive into that, I do want to ask a question. So it's the icebreaker. I've got to tell y'all this. Okay. So here's the question. And those who are watching, you can go ahead and comment too in the box, in the chat box. What is one hobby that you want to do that you haven't done in a long time?
Is this uncut and uncensored or no? No, I'm just joking.
Oh Lord.
I'll jump out there. For me, I would say make jewelry. I haven't done that in a long time. My aunt taught us how to make earrings in the oven and all this other type of things when we were kids. And I haven't done it in a long time. So maybe make some jewelry. It was fun. I love to create things.
Okay.
I had a ball. I just got back from doing an event in Jamaica, but I forgot how much I love to swim. So, and I live in Los Angeles, so I need to find out where I can do that on a regular basis. It's the best. For me, it's at this point in my life, is the best exercise in the world. I mean, the salt, but of course, the salt water and humidity of the tropical islands. Our folk need that on a regular basis. It's healing. It's. I didn't get sick until I got back. So, I was like, I feel wonderful. I can take on the world. came back into America like a Muppet. Other than that, it was but swimming. I've always loved to swim and had fun as a kid, sneaking into swim clubs. So now it's like I need to find a spot where I can do it on a regular basis and have a good time with it.
Well, I would like to get back into playing basketball.
Oh,
I would, just for the sport of it, just for the cardio, for the competition. I would love to do that, and I have to make time. It's not that I don't have the time; I have to make the time.
Yeah, keep a basketball in your trunk.
Well, I had that.
You got stop. Oh, right. Stop.
Where's your gym shoes, girl?
Come on.
Pin that hair up and go.
Right,
that works. Part. It works.
Yeah. Me a lot of brothers too. That's just a hint.
I didn't know you played. Okay.
Learn
something new. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, for me, no, I was a tomboy. I used to do street football and basketball in the street. Not trying to be professional. No.
So you got no rules. I got you.
But can you believe that I was a tomboy? I was.
Yeah, as soon as you said street football, not only did you say you was tomboy, you told your age.
Oh.
I played basketball in middle school and also in the neighborhood, football, baseball in the neighborhood. So I get it.
Yeah, I can play a pickup. I probably, my knees will tell me when to stop nowadays. So I used to play basketball all day, all night. But yeah, now it's like my knees like, I'm like, oh, okay, y'all, I'm gonna see y'all later. Because your mind don't know that your mind thinks it's all,
Yeah. For me, I wish I had the time to get back into playing piano.
Oh.
Yes. So I learned. Right? I'm sorry.
You know I play, right?
By ear. So
I play.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Oh, there it is. You got a piano in your house.
We just got to get together. You're gonna learn how to play the piano.
There it is.
So I learned a little bit when I was in foster care. So that's where I learned. I started there, and then I started playing at my grandmother's church. And that was my first job. I got paid. So that was like maybe 13, 14. So yeah, that was my first job. So yeah, I wish I could just have time to do that. That was like my getaway to just,
ain't no wishing no more after 2020. You need to take the time. Like
absolutely, sir.
Yeah.
You got a keyboard?
No, not anymore. No.
Okay, I need you to get that. I need you to do, and then after that, we can FaceTime and all other kind of things to begin this journey for real. That's therapy. Playing the piano is therapy.
Yeah. It is. I ballroom now. I love ballroom, line dancing. I do all that. But that was my first love. I love it. But yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you for those who are watching us. I saw people on Facebook. Thank you guys for coming in for a second. We're talking about the importance or the struggles of parenting your parents. And so I want to give you guys the definition of parentification. So it is a disturbance in the generational boundaries such that evidence indicates a functional or an emotional role reversal in which the child sacrifices his or her own needs for attention, comfort, guidance in order to accommodate and care for the logistical and emotional needs of a parent and or sibling. So sometimes when you will hear older people say about millennials or people who are sensitive, they'll say, "Oh, suck it up. You're just sensitive, blah, blah, blah." That's not always the case.
That's
It's
right.
not that millennials are sensitive. Most of them were robbed of their emotional needs as a child.
Mm.
So that is something, that's a conversation that we definitely need to have, because it's not that they're sensitive, not just millennials, but people in general who are just high empathy individuals.
They're depleted.
Uh, but they just never got that emotional security. And that's something, like I said, we got to talk about. So I want you guys to give me your definition of parentification, because again, tonight everyone's sharing their story. Everyone has a different scenario than mine. So
Right.
I want everyone to share, because someone out there is listening and needs your advice, your input, and how you overcome. So I want you to give us your definition, a snapshot of your experience as a parent to your parents, and how old were you, if you don't mind sharing that, when you had to take on this. You don't have to share. When you had to step into that role, and when that dynamic shifts. So if we can start with Auntie Tab, since you put your hand up.
That hand will get you every time. Parentification. I would actually lean into the definition that you gave us. And the reason being, all scenarios work in that definition, regardless of the context of when you got started, how you got started. And for me, my parentification started probably about the age of 42. Now, context, my mom was told after my third brother was born not to have any more children. She wanted a daughter. She and her mom, she was really her siblings' parent. So my grandmother had children and bring the children home. My mom would raise them. And so my mom desired a daughter like she was to her mom. So they prayed, had a daughter. Here I am. And she was really trying to make me Cinderella and that prototype, that model. So I knew early on that there was already some severing between the mom and her. Now, understand, I'm a kid, but I've been packaged with a bunch of desires in me that my mom didn't have. So I had a lot of questions, like, where did this come from? I wanted to be nurtured. My mom wasn't nurtured by her mom, so she didn't know to give it to me. She had no way. And so my mom was told not to have me. So having me caused her to have health challenges. She had chronic pain from day one of pregnancy until she left this earth, every day in pain. And as she got older, the pain got worse. Here's the thing. Mom raised in the 40s, born in the 40s rather. And they're always taught not to share what's going on with them, because her whole life was giving to others. So if you're good, then I'm good, even when I'm not. And so they kept her illness and pain and struggles, they being my dad and mom, from us. We didn't know until much later. I got concerned as the prescriptions increased, as the drop ship packages kept coming. Now, keep in mind, I had relocated to Detroit, so my frequency and my lens was different when I would go home. Sometimes you're too close to it in the everyday. So me coming in and out, I was able to see the variants and changes in the medicine, landing. It used to be 8 bottles. Now I'm looking at 14 bottles. And whose medicine is this? And just, not, being intrusive, but just, okay, y'all sharing the ledge now, or is this just you, Ma? Is this you, Ma, and Dad? So seeing that, and they came in the air with whatever the doctor said, we do it. There's no questions, They increased my medicine. They told me to take it. My dad was on blood thinner for 11 years. I'm like, why are we still on this? But they don't ask questions. They just trust the professional. So my mom, in probably the last 9-10 years of her life, the pain was beyond bearing. And so her medications increased. Again, recluse, very private from us. But me and my dad are very close. I'm a daddy's daughter. And so he began to share what before was not disclosed to us. So that's when, to me, I began to care for both parents, because he saw his partner in life debilitating. So I'm pretty much being a compassionate companion for him, because he's losing that from her. What they shared before, now he's breaking that and having to share with me, because I need to find another confidant, because I got to get her help. What's been working before is not working. Then I had to be it for her, although I had her siblings kind of in the way. So I had many contexts, and layers to trying to parent my parents, but yet my dad was a pastor too. So respecting their independence, respecting their status, respecting that, they share life and pour into so many, and doing it behind the scenes and allowing them to get in the light. And it looks like, hey, all is well, which is, in the Black family, that's what we do well. We know about showtime. We just don't know about living well,
Right.
So that was my battle. And again, the last 9 years of her life, which she passed in 2020, my dad couldn't even sleep in the bed with her. If he moved, any movement with the mattress caused her pain, and she'd be up all night. So it was just, it was a hard drive. She was also a Leo, in control, oldest. So convincing her of options and, suggesting, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? If the doctor said something and we were saying something different, it became a battle. So learning how to communicate with her for the best result. We had talked. That's the one thing I wanted to share. You have to talk when everyone is well, about what options we want to do when things start going worse.
Right.
And I don't even mean to the point of death. I mean, just if you need to be cared for, what are your decisions? If you need to be cared for, who would you like to be here with you if it's in the home? If you need to be cared for, what do you want me to do about your bills?
Yeah, living well.
Yeah, you need to talk about those things, because it mitigates a lot of family interference and confusion. And you don't need that amid I'm trying to care for my loved one. And I mean a significant love. My parent, you just kind of go blind, and then you take on another gear, and then all this other life is happening and people are making decisions because you didn't have a conversation.
Right.
And then the aftermath is you've got to put together the pieces, should, be a health demise, to figure out what were they doing while they were, losing life. So my mom passed in 2020. They were married for 60 years.
Wow.
60 years. Immediately, the day she passed, and we talked about this too, we said, whoever goes first, the other won't be far behind. They were that intrinsically tied. They rescued one another as young people and got married. So my dad passed away this April. But from that day, I knew when a spouse loses, they become a widower. I mean, they lose so many multifunctions. Again, he started talking to me when he lost his confidant, when she got to the point that he needed to start sharing the health. There were many other things. Then my mom bought his clothes, and I had to have an epiphany. He kept saying, Dad, why you only circulating like 6 outfits? What's going on? One day I'm driving, the Lord says, your mom bought the clothes, right? I'm like, oh man. So it was just being open and communicating. And that's the key to however you're going to manage parenting a parent. And you got to force them in love. And I mean, your parents. So finding those atmospheres to have hard conversations while they're healthy, because you want to honor their wishes. And I did. There were things that I was in total disagreement, but I knew what my mom wanted. So I gave what she spoke and what she wanted.
That's right.
To honor that. Same way with my dad. It doesn't have to be what you want. And you've got to remove yourself, because it's their life. Mm-hmm. It's their life. You got to let them live it how they deem. You live yours the way You want to govern, but give them their identity because they got to answer to God for it, not you. So I pray that helps.
Yeah.
That was so good. And I would have to say that even though my mother is in an AFC home, we do have conversations. And for me, and I shared this with my sisters last Saturday when we were together, that I had to be very careful with what I say because I don't want to trigger her episodes.
That's right.
Those of you that don't know, my mother is a paranoid schizophrenic, and it is very hard to have conversation with her. So I'm going to hold back from sharing my story and have the others share. But I wanted to just jump into what you said, Auntie Tab, because we've had a conversation about what would happen if she passed or what to do, and so she was open to that, and it was like you said, being in a certain atmosphere. And so to have that conversation is very important. And I was figuring out, like, Lord, how are we going to have this conversation? I don't want to trigger anything, but she was open to it. So I believe that there are certain times the Holy Spirit was navigating, even through my mom, to speak on certain things.
Yeah.
Just because you have an illness don't mean you're not there.
That's
And
right.
I always treat my mother as a person. I never treat her as a kid, even though I have family members who may sometimes treat her that way. But I would tell them, like, no, she has rights. So I don't want to go into that part yet. I'm jumping just a little bit. But those who are dealing with mental illness, your parents still have rights. Your siblings still have rights.
right.
Okay. And you have to honor that. And I see Latricia shaking her head like, because she knows all about that.
Absolutely.
So, but who wants to go next?
Go
right on ahead.
Well, Latresa is the counselor. It's like, no. I guess for me, I was. My mother said one time I was the savior child because my brother's 10 years older than me. Now he, both of us, we talk about it sometimes, and we both have our own stories. His is more intricate in certain ways because when he was born, can you guys hear me? Hear me well? Okay. When he was born, my parents were 18, and he also, later found out that my father wasn't his father, and my mother had lied. But so the things he dealt with were a bit different, and it was like, we had the party house when I was coming up. I was born in 1975, so we had the party house in the county. We had the teenagers downstairs in the dark basement with the music on, grinding. The parents and everybody upstairs in the living room and the kitchen, and smoke and whatever kind of powders on the table, and the kids upstairs watching Motown 25 and dancing around. So it's one of those things where you see those things and it's normal and it's fun. And I think for me, the big shift happened once my brother left and went into the military. He was 18, I was 8.
Wow.
Because once he left, then it was just me, dad, and mom. And a lot of the buffer was gone. Take your brother with you was out of that wasn't a thing now. Hey, if you're going out, take your brother with you. Me going over my aunt and uncle's house on, in Southwest Philadelphia in the summers was a buffer. I didn't know everything that went on when I was gone out the house, who was staying there, who was with my mom and dad, what they were doing. I just knew I'd go to Southwest Philly, come back in the summer and go back to school. But once I started working, because I noticed something, I noticed a little thing, for one, my parents would say stuff like, yeah, we smoke, it's wrong. You got to choose stuff. I was 6 and 7 when I chose not to, and 8 when I chose not to mess with marijuana.
Wow.
I chose not to mess with reefer then,
It was reefer.
Still had the good smell and well, but when you go in there to ask for money from your parents and you got to set the room up, my parents had their issues, but I know I had to go in and set the room up. They laying around naked and reefer stuff. I got to set the whole room up like a crime scene, go back out the door and lock the door and knock on the door. And then I hear them shuffle around. I just need some money for ice cream. That was just too much. I'm just trying to go to the ice cream truck. But it's one of those things where I guess parentification. Yes. It's the same thing as what they used to call, oh, you grew up fast. Because those senses, a lot of times, at one point in time, it used to be a badge of honor. Yeah, I had to grow up fast. And, we were latchkey kids, and you get the key, and I was 11 years old when my parents was like, all right, I left me by my home by myself.
Alone.
but not the normal. You got your key, your parents get home when they get home. It was like, we going out of town for the weekend. Don't tell your aunt you're in the house by yourself, because she live up the street and she'll lose her mind. So it's like, okay, what can I get into? But it was that process going on. And by the time I was 14, both of my parents were gone. They weren't dead yet. They left. My mom left, went her way, and she went from selling drugs to using drugs and hanging with the people that she was in the streets with. And my father got depressed and started going to work, going to his girlfriend's house from there. And me and him would hit and miss. And since I was working, I'd go to school, do whatever after school, go to work, get back home. He wasn't there yet. I'd do some stuff, do homework or whatever, have friends over, cutting hair. I was cutting hair and working and go to sleep, wake up, he'd be home, go to school, he'd be gone. We had this rhythm until one day I had a girl come over and we fell asleep. And I was like, woke up like, oh shoot, my father. My father was a heavy sleeper, so I was like, all right, let me check and see if he's sleeping. I close his door and then I can sneak her out. Had to all in my mind, but when I went into his room, I was like,
where you at?
And I got back to the room, she's like, your father not here? I was like, no. She's like, that's good, right? I was like, and I realized I was living by myself. We were hitting and missing, but all he was doing is coming in, showering, and changing his clothes.
Wow.
So all of a sudden we're roommates. But the bravado of what happens in our house stays in our house became something where it was like, now I was doing things in high school. I was involved in productions. I was doing academic stuff. And it was just the system that kept it going. The saving grace for me at that time, and I always say this, was I had an amazing community. I had some amazing friends, their parents. Later on, as I talked to other people about certain things, I realized that we had the townhouses on this side, the individual house, and you thought the people in the individual house had the money and they were doing all right. They had to see, that was the county. And when I saw the movie, when I seen shows like Weeds or what's that another show, they show the white folks and they seem like the houses, or American Beauty, the houses make it seem like everything is good. Then you realize, a friend of mine told me she had been being molested from all her brother's friends. Crazy stuff that was going on in the neighborhood, and you wouldn't know it because everybody had their individual thing. But thank God for my family that was close and my friends. And but as I got older, but to fast forward a bit, what happens a lot of times when we go through something is that we have a stamp. There might have been certain things you went through, Tab, way before 42. But there were certain things that, you just keep moving through it.
That's right.
When your parents leave at a certain point and you got a townhouse to yourself until it gets foreclosed on, and then you start hopping, there's things I've been dealing with for the past 30 years. So there's things that go along with you. And until you turn around, it's like, oh, wait, this is where that came from. A lot of times, that's good. In the spiritual sense, a lot of times we talk about deliverance. There's certain things that you may never get delivered from. You just have to recognize and call it what it is, and then break away from it. Because it's not something that I remember my mom, and I go into this more, but one of the testimonials is when I was about to go to New York and start, I was doing theater arts, I was doing choreography, I was about to go to New York at 19, and I called Duntory Dance Studio, and God had other plans. He had my brother call me, and he said, hey man, I'm getting married in Louisiana. I want you to come down, and it's gonna be like an Islamic wedding. And I was like, oh, I might not be here, but years later, we talked about that. He said, I didn't know what you meant. I said, I was moving to New York. I had just made the call to Duntory Dance Studio on 42nd and was gonna go there, and I knew how to cut hair, and I was ready to start my life in that area. I knew, right? And he said, well, I want you to bring mom down. I was like, mom, who? I was like, that's not the woman that raised me. She went through this money and just using drugs and all this stuff. I was just waiting for her to die so we can get the insurance money. And after I hung up the phone, I was like, man, I know I was pissed off because I was cussing him out. My brother, Grandmaster Martial Arts. I'm cussing him out. I'm like, shoot up. And God was like, go get your mother. I looked around the room and I was like, oh, well, you know, because it's funny because it's like when you're outside playing and people like, oh, that's why you got to go in the house. Your mom like, I ain't got to go in the house. And you like, Tabitha. You're like, all right,
I feel like going in.
Neat, right. I guess I'm gonna go in there. I'm tired. I didn't want to play with y'all anyway. That's how it is when God really calls you. It's you're going this way, and then it's like something grabs your attention. So, but that changed everything. You know, the testimonies before she died in 2020. You know, she had been an evangelist for years. But if I had not listened to that,
wow.
You know, the other part of her life. But there's certain things in her life that followed her to the day she died.
Absolutely.
And with my father, same with him. He died in 2010. But, you know, I was 24 years old when I got a chance to go back to both of them and kind of apologize. I said, man, I had to apologize to y'all. And they were like, you know, different conversations, different times they were separating stuff. Like, what do you apologize for? I was like, there's no way y'all could have worked in a relationship the way y'all were headed. You know, y'all had so much stuff working against y'all, but you know, I got a chance to make my peace with both of them before they left this planet.
Bless God.
But some of the things that you deal with, they roll with you, and a lot of times we take on labels. Oh, this person can't do this, or he always does this. There's certain patterns and stuff. But like Nick said early off, a lot of this stuff comes from our parents are our first love relationships. They're our first role models. They're our first teachers. They're our first everything. So when those people start to show they're just fallible, flawed people, but we're too young to know what human means, because at a certain age, we just know they're our parents.
Yeah. And
then when we get to, I think about it all the time. I have a 10-year-old daughter and I'm doing certain things now. But at 47 years old, both of my parents were strung out. Wow. So to think about where I am and where they were, I have a lot more respect, honor, and grace for them, because I know I could imagine the things they were going through mentally without the guidance and the knowledge and all the mental health books and all the self-help and all the spiritual stuff and all the stuff we learned. They didn't have access to that like that, and they came up in this.
That's right.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it does stunt your growth. Wherever you lose, wherever it transitions from you being able to be a child to having to put on, not basic stuff, because I talk to my daughter about some things just because of the type of society we're in now, you got to. But she knows I'm dad. She knows daddy got her. Mm-hmm. And she knows daddy's always gonna be there for her, and and I want her to be a little girl. I want her not to grow up too fast. I would put the brakes on when I have to, and her mom's doing her part. We co-parent, we're not together. But in the midst of things, those are very important things for us to realize that, wait, at this point, why do I deal with this all the time? Just go back and look at it. Just sometimes we don't flip the pages.
That's right.
We'll pray about it and hit the altar and spit and cough and just flip the book. Just open it. Just take a minute and look at your life. Yeah. And don't be so critical about it.
That's right.
A lot of times we're so critical about our life and we try to hide. I remember talking to my mom about something. She was like, I don't deal with that no more. I'm in Louisiana. I'm looking at her like, I was actually using it as a praise report from what you've been through. I said, what are you talking about? But I hadn't realized that she had so much guilt, from it. Even from what my brother, because my brother, her relationship is different from mine and hers. You talk about 10-year difference. The 18-year-old chick who did all this crazy stuff versus the 28-year-old chick who did some more stuff. Same with my father. And I got a chance to interview my father for 2 hours before he got really sick from acute leukemia and died in 2010. But it was a great interview, and I realized it helped me a lot, because I realized one thing, because I asked him, what were you? You were lettering in sports, you were a fine artist, you were doing all this stuff. What were your plans after high school? I heard the baseball team with me. He said, back then, they weren't really looking at black players to take out. I said, so what were your plans? He said, I really didn't have any plans. Those were his words out of his mouth. Yeah, I've always had plans. I got books on my shelves on the bottom shelf that are goals and plans and stuff. I got plans I'm doing now that I planned at 16. What it told me is that as much as somebody look at you, oh, you just like your father sometimes, or you just like your mother. Sometimes they use that as a negative sense. I realize it's a blessing to be like my father where I am, but I'm a totally different person now. And that in 2010 was the thing that shifted some more. But our life is a total revolution period.
Come on, sir.
We keep shifting.
Come on.
So it's cool that we can go back and look, oh, that's why I'm still immature in this area, because I didn't really get the proper training. There was no one there to pour into me and let me know.
It wasn't in me.
So, but now we have no excuse. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
That's right, sir.
It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. And that's the thing. And the dope thing about God is that he's patient.
He waits, doesn't he?
You know what I'm saying? And so we can go to him.
You turn that corner like that.
You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the dope thing about him. He's patient. Man. And lately, especially in the past week, a couple of weeks, all he's been saying is, timing is everything. And timing is everything. Be patient. Just let us ride out. Because anything we see where we usually make mistakes is usually premature decisions. We jump the gun because of nervousness. We jump the gun because of angst. We jump the gun because of different things. But that whole stand still, be patient, relax, and flowing in time, and rest for a bit, chill out, and you may have a huge task on you, but just to rest and sit in it, that's all I got.
Good.
That was so good. This is why I brought Troy on. Okay, it's been a minute since I've had him on for anything, but he always comes with the fire. You said a few things that I want to piggyback on really quick, but before I do that, hey everybody, this is your girl Shantanique Langston. I'm your personal and professional relationship coach, right? Thank you guys for coming in. And those that have been on, thank you guys for listening. We're talking about the struggles of parenting your parents, and as you've heard so far, there are different scenarios and different experiences, but it's all under the same branch or bridge. And so really quick, I wanted to just piggyback on a few things you said. The first thing is learn to break away from generational cycles. That's what I got out of what you talked about concerning your dad and the things you saw with him, that constant revolving door that was going on in the house. Like he's coming in the door, you leaving, and you never saw him. And so I think, like you said, for you and your daughter and with the mom, you guys are working together to make sure that she's healthy, you keep that balance with her and to let her know what's going on in the world. I think it's amazing that you're having these conversations with your daughter at this time because, like I said before, a lot of things was sheltered, pushed under the rug, don't say anything. What happens in this house, stay in this house. No, bro, you cannot. No, I need to go break. I need to break free. I need to go get some help. Somebody need to help me. Like that's the society we live in today. And if you watch on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube videos of parents talking to their kids about emotional support and how they're pouring into their kids, it's because a lot of them, like I said earlier, they lacked that type of support when they were younger, and they don't want their children to suffer from having that emotional support. And that is so important as we develop in our personal lives and also in our professional lives. So I don't want to go too deep, but again, belonging is important. And a lot of people struggle with belonging because of the lack of emotional support. So another thing I wanted to mention too was you mentioned there are things that you didn't get, and I know from my mother where she lacked was finances. I didn't get that proper training on finances, and I will always look up. My mother didn't have no money, until the first. We always had to wait to the first to get things, and I'm like, why we gotta wait to the first to get things? It was because of she didn't know how to navigate her finances, and of course, you have like mental illness that plays a part in that, and so. For me, I said, you know what? I'm going to get a hold of my finances. I'm going to work on some things. So I would tell anybody out there, whatever you did not get from your parents, learn the opposite.
That's right. Get it now.
Learn it now. Like, it's like you said, it's no excuse. It really isn't. Find somebody that is better than you in navigating their money so they can show you how to do it. pride comes before the fall. Don't be so prideful that you can't get help. Because trust me, I got help, and I'm grateful that I'm taking the time to learn how to navigate my finances. And not spend. But one person I met told me this, that you cannot spend money if you don't save money. You gotta save money in order to spend it. So that is a true thing, and I stick by that. And so I'm a lot better with my finances today, and my mother doesn't know it. I wouldn't tell her how much money I'm gonna saved right now because she'd be like, "You go shopping." No, ma'am, I am not going shopping. I love Amazon, and I'm sure Amazon will love my money in my bank, but absolutely not.
Amazon mess around, send you. Here's an unlimited Amazon card.
Amazon for everybody.
They looking at your purchases too. You know, you haven't spent a lot with us lately, so let's do something.
Yes.
Right.
Hey, Shantae, that's my friend, y'all. That's my sister from college back in 06. I love her, love her, love her. All right. So I'm going to have Latresa go next.
All right. You know, at first, I thought parentification started for me at maybe late 20s, early 30s. But as I think about it, it actually started at 8.
Mm-hmm.
At 7 years old, my mom died from AIDS. And at that time, my father, although we would go visit him on the weekends, we were raised by my grandmother. And my grandmother is well in her 50s at this time. Let's just be real. She's in her 50s. She has these little kids. There's 3 of us. She has these 3 little kids that she has to raise on top of raising others. And in the household, there were people there who some were dealing with addictions, right? And so at that time, if my grandmother needed to leave or anything like that, she said, "You're in charge, Teresa. You're in charge. I'm expecting these chores to be done by these people, the grown folks, and everybody can't have company. So if anything happens while I'm gone, I'm coming to you." That's the way she ran the household. And I remember at 9 and 10 years old telling some of my grown cousins that lived in the house, "You can't have company." And she's like, what you mean? I'm having company. You don't tell me you can't have company. And part of, for me, because I know I had some anger issues at that time. I was dealing with depression and did not know it. I was extremely irritable, dealing with all of those things. We would go over my house sometimes.
Grown folks issues.
Grown folks issues. I'm telling
I
you.
said you ain't have no company.
I said you.
8 years old.
And literally
running it.
Anyway.
You sit there and watch the cartoons. I have to say what I said.
Yes, she brought the guy over anyway. And I told him he had to leave. And she said, "You can't make my company leave." And he said, "I'm not going anywhere." And I remember going to the kitchen. I told him to stay right there. I went to the kitchen and grabbed 3 knives and came out and threw them at him. And he ran out the front door. Because you're not getting me in trouble. That's just where I was.
Let me tell you what grandma know. If I put Latresa in charge, somebody gonna get cut. That's what's gonna happen around this.
So
ma'am, that was at what age?
Pretty
That's about 8, 9.
About 9 by then.
Making
First
sure
of all,
She
anytime
worked
you
on
hear a
her.
black person say,
I'll be right
"Hold on, I'm
back.
about to go,"
You don't get it.
you need to go out the door.
I was about to say, whoever that young man was, obviously wasn't raised right.
He was
Because
a
I've
strong.
seen, we used to have black men take care of their lawn. He was like, "Get off my lawn." Like, we come back. "Oh, y'all gonna stay on that lawn?"
Stay
I'll be
right there.
back.
I'll be right back.
Come on, let's go.
I
Let's
said
go.
get off the grass.
We're going
Right.
You're
Listen,
going to get something that throws, and he didn't get no knives.
I mean,
He was
immediately.
throwing bullets.
You are lethal.
Latrice,
Listen, hey, we out in Detroit downtown. I know who to take with me. It's gonna be Teresa.
If Latresa say, "I'll be right back," you better go get the car. Oh. You know, like, when people start studying,
You know them knives ain't gonna work now.
When I think about some of those experiences, though, that's what made me say, no, parentification started at 8.
Absolutely.
I can't say late 20s, early 30s, but that was more so when my grandmother was experiencing more of the illnesses that she was dealing with. And I was taking her to the hospital and medicine.
That gets into caregiving, but 8?
Come on.
But yeah, 8. Making sure my siblings did their homework, because if they had failing grades, I was in trouble.
Sure.
because I'm the 4.0 student. So how do you have a 4.0 and your brother has an F? Unacceptable. You're on punishment.
Unacceptable.
Like those type of things. So they would come in the house because my grandmother would leave every day at 5 o'clock. She's going to bingo. 5 to 10. That's bingo.
Wow.
So from 5 to 10, I'm in charge.
You better run that house.
Bingo and whatever else grandma needed to take care of.
Right.
Bingo was only until 7.
Right. Gonna see a man about a dog.
In charge. And my brother would say things like, well, Grandma, can I go to my friend's house? I said, no, Grandma, he can't go because he has homework. He has not done his homework. Now, this is what I mean by parentification. At 8 and 9, and as the years continue to go on, sometimes we would go over my dad's house and they had different games. People drank their alcohol. And I would go with my brother mostly. My sister didn't go at this time as frequent as we did. And my brother would say, sis, I'm hungry. And I didn't want to bother the adults. I took my allowance money and walked him to the McDonald's and bought him something to eat and bought myself something to eat. So that's what I mean by starting really early.
Yep.
With parentification.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
And now what this did to me, though, was it made it very difficult for me to accept direction from adults.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How you gonna tell me what to do? And I've been in charge.
You keep saying I know because I know what to do. Fly out your mouth.
I know what to do.
I know what to do.
She would tell the people that's in charge, y'all know what y'all doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that when we don't deal with those type of deep-rooted issues, it also plays out in other relationships.
That's right.
Somebody that's struggling with submission probably was the parent early on. Yep. Let's just be real. They've been in charge for years and haven't learned how to submit. Somebody that's struggling to go to God in prayer. This is something that God revealed to me even today. A lot of times when I was going to God in prayer about me, it was at a crisis. It was, I've already done everything that I could possibly do myself.
God sitting there like,
I've done everything.
I've been here the whole time.
Right. And when I thought about it, as a kid, I had to figure it out. When I go to people, and even when I asked about how to spell a word, my grandma was like, sound it out. You got to figure it out. So I had to figure those things out. So I didn't think I had anybody I could go to for assistance. If I call my dad, and I'm asking if he can pay for my books this first year of college. Can you pay for my books for me? I wish I could, but I just loaned this out to your uncle. I just loaned this out to your auntie. I just don't have it. So my mind went, there's nobody I can go to. I got to figure it out. And so I got to exhaust all options before I ask anybody for anything. Even now, because we say God is our father, in my mind, that's still father, right? That's still dad.
I can't get nothing.
Well, this is how I interacted with my natural father.
Mm-hmm.
So then what?
It's a model. It's a model.
Right.
It's a model. Absolutely.
I'm going to my spiritual father first for assistance because in my mind he's not going to help me. I may go to him and pray for somebody else, and I know he's going to answer that prayer, but he's probably not going to answer for me because I got to figure it out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Where did you know what a father and a mother should be providing?
For me, I had to look outside. So
I started. Where did you have that desire from your parents? You said. I'm asking you, where did you know to look for that from them? Who modeled that?
I looked at my aunt and my uncle.
Got you.
I did not. Yeah, because my mom was deceased. I was 7 years old. She died. My dad, he died in 2011. I used to ask him about if he was taking his medicine because, again, when my mom contracted HIV, it quickly went to AIDS for her. She was anemic when she contracted it, so she lived for about 6 months with the disease.
Wow.
My dad, and he was not really forthcoming about his sexual practices. Let's put it that way. He was a male dancer. He had a partner who I thought for years was my uncle. Discovered at 13 or so that he was not. And so with my dad, he lived with that disease for years. Right. Some things happened that strained our relationship. Mm-hmm. And I remember before my like maybe a few months before my dad passed, we talked about all the things he wanted done for his funeral service. He listed me as the beneficiary. You know, he asked me to preach his eulogy, all of those different things. We actually went through this whole forgiveness, and I asked him to forgive me because I was not, in my mind, I was not a good daughter to him. He said, "You've been the best daughter." I said, "No, I stopped coming around as frequently as I used to. I rushed you off the phone a lot because I was still angry." And he was like, "No, I understood. I understood. And it's okay." So our relationship was healed. I actually was the one that led him through a prayer of repentance and rededication, because he was saved before, but rededicating his life to Christ before he passed. Now, flash into 2020, where my grandmother, the one that raised me, she died. But all during that process beforehand, I remember having to make sure we formed a pretty decent, our relationship got better after I published my first book, actually. We had always had a decent relationship, but we got really close after I released Gate to Life, You Choose the Life You Shall Experience. And she was the one that told me that nobody was going to buy the book. She said, "Why are you writing an autobiography? Ain't nobody going to buy that book. You're too young for that." And I said, "Grandma, watch me." So I wrote the book, and when it was published, I went straight to her. "Grandma, my book is published. See, look, it's published." And she said, "Well, I want 5 copies. I want the first 5 copies." I said, "Okay, well, let here." She said, "No, I'm going to pay for them. I won't pay full price because I need to show you how people are to treat you and your gift. So I'm going to pay full price for the book." She bought it. She passed it around. She read it in 2 days. And then she asked if we could sit down and have a conversation. And one of the things in the book I mentioned was how hurt I was that I could not go to my mom's funeral when she died. And my grandma didn't allow us to go. And she said, "I didn't know you were angry with me because you could not go to your mom's funeral. Let me tell you why I did that." She said, "I actually went to a psychiatrist and asked, and the psychiatrist told me that because your mom didn't look the same, that you all shouldn't go. You should remember her in the way in which she was before she died." And I'm like, "Well, no, I didn't have closure." And she said, "Okay, well, I apologize." So sometimes when we are going through things and we're dealing with our parents and we're in a parental position at an early age, and now this is something I thought people were just talking because they were like, "You're always so serious. You're so serious. You're really not, just laugh a little bit. Do a little." I'm like, "What? I'm not serious all the time."
You don't even realize that's your demeanor.
Exactly.
You don't realize that's what
that's the coping, man.
That's the heaviness you cover.
Absolutely. And because so many people said it, I started to look at it. So, well, maybe this is a real issue.
We start smiling and laughing more.
let me work on that. Maybe this is a real issue, And so those are some of the things that when I think about parentification, in my grandmother's case, she talked to me about all of her medical things. And sometimes it was hard to listen to because in my mind, my mom died. By this time, my dad died. All the different people who I was really close to had already died. Here's the last one. My other grandparents, they were all deceased. This is the last one that I'm really close to. And I'm not ready to even receive what she's talking about. Because she said, "Latresa, I need to talk to you because you in charge." So there's another one. My dad had been in charge of his burial, his stuff. My grandma's like, "You in charge. You the oldest." I'm like, "Grandma, you got kids. You got grown. You in charge of all my stuff." So she wrote out all of what she wanted to happen during her homegoing service. Who is to speak? What funeral home she wanted to happen at. She even put the songs on there that she want played. I mean, it was so detailed. She showed me where all of her, and this is something I want to say to people who are watching, make sure you know where everything is at.
Yes.
All insurance policies and all that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
She showed me where all the documents were, who was to get what.
Back in the day, folks used to say, maybe not as many Black folks, they used to say, "Get your affairs in order." With Black folks, it's usually under the mattress or in the bottom drawer. or up top in the closet. You know, we didn't have a lot of banks and stuff we could put stuff. So their stuff was like, get that box over there.
Yes.
Or, you know, so, but getting our affairs in order is a big deal.
Yeah. Now, for her, it was about 6 years where she didn't have a heartbeat. She was still living, but no heartbeat.
How long?
6 years.
She was on a machine for 6 years?
No. And she used to laugh about it. So this is what I meant by it was hard.
Well, they couldn't find the heartbeat.
Right. They couldn't find it at all at the hospitals. And the nurses would be frustrated and everything was going on.
They're looking for veins and pulses. Like,
they said, ma'am, you should be dead. Like, I can't get a heartbeat.
Right.
And she said, they still can't find a heartbeat. I'm like, Grandma, that's not funny. Like, for me, it was traumatizing, but I had to listen. And this is where I'm going to talk about making sure you are respecting them in the state that they're in. That's super important.
Very much.
Her way of coping was laughing at the stuff that she was going through.
That's right.
All the physical, she was showing me her sheet, her printout, and it's 3 pages, sometimes 4 of all the physical things she got going on. And I'm looking and holding back tears. And she like, I live another day. I guess I'm still here. Something else I'm supposed to do for the Lord. I said, well, I'm glad you're here, Grandma. She said, yeah, I don't know, but I'm here.
That's terrible.
I don't know.
You can't get, well, we come from people that couldn't get too happy. It's like, I'm happy, but something's gonna happen.
She was just tired. And one of the things she did say, when you start hearing people say this, I'm tired. So I'm tired.
That's it right there.
Pin cushion.
That's it right there.
Every time I go to the hospital, they bruise me up. I'm just tired. Teresa, I'm like, okay, Grandma, why you keep saying that? She said, I'm just saying, I won't be here always.
That's the crossover in the will.
Yes. So we have to make sure we're respecting them. When she finally got to the place, now she is super independent. She always told us to be independent. That was some of her most fierce teaching. But when she got to the place, she could not drive her car. That was
a wrap.
It's a wrap. And she got to the place where she stumbled in the house and struggled to walk. And it's a wrap. But she would cuss you out. But here's the thing I used to tell people, be patient. Because you don't know what it feels like to all your life be independent. My grandmother took care of her mother when she was 12. She had to raise all her siblings. Exactly. You see where I'm going, Troy? She had to raise all her siblings. She started smoking at 12.
Stress.
And her mother had a
stress and grown.
Right. Medical and mental health condition. So in her mind, at a young age, listen, you don't have time for all of this other stuff that everybody else.
Stay busy.
You got to be busy. You got responsibilities. All that type of stuff, because that's been the way she coped over the years. All her money was in order. She was like, you're not going to have to do any type of GoFundMe. This is in this account, this account. And I thank her for that type of example, but I had to operate from a position of humility during that time, that period of time in which she was going through, because I wanted to parent her and tell, listen, stop smoking. They told you got to stop smoking. She said, listen, I'm going to die anyway. You know, and we had those type of serious conversations because my grandmother was very direct, and I would have a direct conversation with her. And she was like, well, I got one little pleasure. Leave me alone. I'm not already cut.
I was about to say, don't take my last pork. You ain't gonna take my pork chop sandwich away from me.
And she was diabetic. She would go and bake. She was an awesome baker. She was like, well, I made this cake. You gonna come eat it with me?
And Grandma, you about to bake your foot off. Well, I'd be the most eating this cake in this non.
It's a good foot.
Right.
But I would go over and I could give her a smaller piece. So you see what I'm saying? Those type of things. You need to respect them. If you're trying to parent from a domineering thing, they're not going to receive.
It's not going to work
at all.
If they're going to resist and they're going to shut you out.
Yes.
They're going to shut you out.
Yeah. So I had to make sure I was doing that, and she embraced me and let me in on more information about what was going on with her. She allowed me to be the one to go with her to the hospitals and until I started asking all kind of other questions. Then she said, "Oh, you get out the room. You just ask me questions."
Can I put something here before you go on? Because that respect thing is huge. And I want to say it to the audience who's out there. We know how we feel, how we want to be respected for what we know, for the strategies and the experiences that we've had that helped us navigate to who we are. Who we look and we're administering to also has a journey.
That's right.
Whether it's fulfilled what you needed or not, they still have a journey that has been fulfilling. Absolutely. And so the interesting thing that God does is he doesn't put the same thing in your cup that he has in theirs.
Come on.
That's right.
And so the reason you have something different in your cup and it bothers you that they don't have it and didn't give it to you is because he put it into you to put into them.
Absolutely.
And his reciprocity works. If you sow it, you'll reap it. And so we're busy fighting because you're the source that should have given it to me. But you got it in you because where did desire come from? God, before the foundation of the world, knew that mama needed a remedy for this brokenness she received from her mama or her mama's mama, whatever it was. And he sent you as the gift.
Come on.
And so if you hold on to your gift and you never give the contents out, you're wasting your journey.
Said a child shall leave him.
Yeah, and so that respect is so huge to always put yourself in their position.
Absolutely.
To never disarm them. Don't disarm them. Go ahead, baby.
I'm so glad you said that because what it brought to my remembrance is the scripture that talks about treating others the way you desire to be treated. Because a lot of times we try and treat people the way that they treat us.
Or we think they need to be treated, and that's not the right. Yeah. I'm gonna treat them like they need to be treated. They don't deserve this.
Yeah, that's not.
You put yourself in the position of God, number one, when you do that.
Yes, come on here. I love it.
I want to add before you finish up this part. What I had to do with my mom, I had to ask the Lord, how do I show up for her? I had to learn that because I didn't have no help. My uncles and they all had their own families and things going on. So I was really left out on a limb. And I'm just keeping it real. I love my family, but I will say this. Your family or your relatives can only operate to their full capacity.
What they have.
Of what they have. And that is okay. Because if your family have prayed, and my family have prayed for my brother and I when we're in the system, and guess what happened? God sent people.
Always does.
Because they can't operate or they cannot give us what they don't have.
What they don't have.
And so even as I got older, and I mentioned this on Instagram, I was in the system. First of all, we were in the shelters first. Okay, let's go there. I was in the shelters first, then went into foster care, came out of foster care, went back into the shelters, then got a guardian, and then finally got stable as I got older, and I had to become her guardian. So I had to ask the Lord to show me, okay, Lord, you're going to have to show me how to show up because everybody telling me all these different things. It's not working. And that's because you have to learn the language of the person.
Of her.
And a lot of times we don't I am cut somebody off. I cut somebody but a lot of times we see things like books like the 5 love languages and stuff like that. And what we don't realize is that's not just your mate. Love languages are love languages, and they're more than 5. And you have to, I was writing an article for Sheen earlier, and one of the things I was touching on was the question came up about, what are some things that are essential to men in relationships and marriage? Now, I've never been married, but I've interviewed well over 1,000. But I know what's essential in relationship to me now. And when I went and looked at some men I really respected, and the things would probably shock most people. But one of the things we talked about, like you were saying about your grandmother, if a guy comes home and he sits down in your chair, and it's not just your man, if it's your dad, and you see him, he's like, come home from work, he's like, you all right, Dad? Yeah, I'm all right. You want to talk about it? No, I'm good.
Nope, I'm good. Well,
you see this communication, the word communication is the transference of information. It never says talk. So when a woman says, oh, he's not communicating to me, he's not communicating like verbally. You do. But if I see somebody slouch down, if you see a student slouch down in a chair like this in class and do like this, you already know that's he's upset. Something's wrong. You're going to ask him. If he don't want to talk, you want to talk about what's wrong? No. Okay. Back in the day, the grandmother, somebody who's nurturer is like, They see them. They already told us before we got home. When your grandfather get home, when your father get home, don't be running up on her.
That's right.
Get home, and he's like that. She bring up an ottoman, put his feet up.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Rub his bald head.
Mm-hmm. Give him something
and
to eat.
say the best words. What? You want something to eat?
Something to eat, baby.
He might not even get the words out. By the time he eat and get something a little later, but that's a whole other thing. He can't stop. You go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you hit the parents something. Talking away. Mm-hmm. It took him, but finding out someone's love language, an elder parent.
That's right.
Who your mom may zap out of certain things, but she love a sugar cookie. Yeah. She love a chocolate chip cookie. Your mom, something may go on, something like, but hey, they love taking walks. Mm-hmm. They love a certain movie. Yeah. You sit down and do nothing else. I would sit down and talk to my father, and I knew when I had to leave because I could feel the depression coming in. I was like, all right, Dad, I'll see you later. But if we talking and we joking and stuff, we could be laughing but I knew it was a certain time that I would have to leave. Yeah. Because we can't do everything. Nope. And sadly, with the whole independence push, the one thing we're never taught, and it's one of the reasons that so many people, women and men, struggle about relationships, is because we're taught independence, but we're never taught healthy interdependence.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's even from the church.
I'm here. That is so true.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to make sure I shared was the importance of having patience. When you are parenting your parent, it's important to be patient with them in the grocery stores, especially we're talking about elderly parents. Driving. Because I remember my grandmother needed to go to the hospital, and she only would go to U of M and Ann Arbor's hospital. That's where she retired from. You got to drive to U of M Ann Arbor. But I don't like the freeways, so Teresa take the street.
Lord Jesus, Michigan Road.
I would take the I would take the street. I said, but Grandma, I'm driving. Yeah, but I'm in the car. I said, okay. So I'll take the street the whole way. It's good. It's a good long trip. But you got to have some patience. Yeah. That's important. Even down to how that way they want their food. She said, I'm calling. Teresa, can you come to my house? Yes. Well, what do you need, Grandma? I need you to make me some chili, but I want you to make it the way I cook it. Okay. I'll be over there. Come and make this chili. And she is happy. So those are some things that we need to make sure we're doing. Sometimes we get frustrated when we're parenting our parents, if you will, and we want to rush them along. Oh my God, let me just do it for you. Oh, I'm hurt. No, she want to do her own grocery shopping. No matter how long she pushed this.
Independence.
What she needs to do.
She's in there.
Here's a great thing to do to capitalize, even when you're in maybe one of those exchanges. That's when you get information.
That is exactly.
Because you're pleasing them, and while pleasing them, you can ask your questions, and it's in a very relaxed state. She's showing you how to make the chili or whatever, and then you're asking just questions and getting the
It's
data.
the only time we don't get that part because of like a lot of stuff, housing market is going through the roof, all this stuff going on. Everybody's like, I don't know what to do. Well, what if God was just trying to bring families a bit
back together
and make sure, because he already showed you that what you thought you need, you don't need.
You don't.
The whole world stopped in 2020 and 2021. Whole world stopped. You lose your house. We still here. I know people younger than me that's not here.
Yes, sir.
I lost a bunch of people, older and younger. But the one thing I heard when it first happened was rest. You know what's fun? You know what Noah's name means?
We don't.
Rest. How would Noah's name mean rest? Yet, if you look at the history of the Bible, Noah probably did more work prior to the biggest destruction ever known to mankind than anyone. But his name meant rest. So, and if you go back and look at certain things, there were certain key things about his demeanor that made it so cool. But God is big on us taking time away with him. And patience is key. Patience and stuff like that. I think is especially for some people like, oh, you're talking about. If you're a believer, patience right now in rest is your pole mark. That's taking time and paying attention to what God would tell you to do is key. Absolutely. But one thing you said, Latresa, is very key. The only way we were able to take from griots and elders and stuff like that is to sit by their feet.
Yes.
We had to sit down. We had to stop running around. And back in the day, the grandparents, come here, rest your nerves. My grandma, rest your nerves, sit down for a bit. Sit down.
Absolutely.
Because you got to sit down and you got to be close. Especially because older people don't talk as loud after a while. They don't have the same amount of strength. Come here. Sit down. Sit down. Rest for a second. You're so busy. Sit down. Rest your nerve.
That is so true.
You know, live a little longer. You'll learn some more stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, but think about where we are. Think about, like I said, I'm 3 years from 50, but 50 used to be old back in the day. I got most of my best girlfriends in their 60s, killing it. Most of them look better than they did 20 years ago. If they're watching now, they probably hate me, but it's true. You know it's true. They retire, and that's one of the reasons the whole system has changed. It was meant for people to retire and soon after die. I retired from the hospital, live a couple years, get a little bit of money, die. They weren't expecting people to live another 30 years after retirement.
Sir, they in a scramble, baby.
The system wasn't meant to do that. Take care. Didn't got people 70-something years old. Nah, I got another little job over here. I retired 3 times. 3 times? You ain't supposed to live this long. They ain't planning on us. They ain't no plan on us.
All pensions are over.
All pensions. Let's cut it off. This whole thing. If they can work, let's let them keep working. You know, 80-year-old bodybuilders and stuff. We're different. We're
doing too much.
We're doing too much. Sit down. The 80-year-old grandmother who in the gym working out, she ain't got time to tell her.
But you say that and we're laughing, but that's why this conversation is so important, because we're living longer.
Yes.
And so while one may be watching today who your parent is healthy and all is well, and while things are well, and here's the thing, tell what your desires are and find out what theirs are. We don't know who's going to take care of who.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't.
But we need to know each other's desires.
You got parents that's outliving their children.
Yes, sir.
And you got children that's, like you said, taking care of their parents.
Yes.
You got grandkids. You know, you think about it, we got grandkids that's almost the same age as some of the aunts and uncles. You know, it's kind of crazy stuff going on.
My brother's older than my aunt.
See what I mean?
Come on, my mom still had to raise her.
But that's a normal thing, you know. So those things are key. Taking a beat, slowing down. I think this is really dope because it makes us slow down. You know what I'm saying? I was telling somebody the other day about cigar. I'm not really big into smoking or drinking, but every now and then I love a good cigar. But I was pitching to Talking Machine magazine. I said, I got to start talking about lifestyle. There are a lot of African American people that own cigar companies, alcohol companies, stuff like that. I said, but with cigars, it takes 2 hours to smoke one cigar. You got to sit down, you got to talk, that's why it's a prestige thing. Most of us don't. It's the whole vibe. You sitting down, another thing is, and all of a sudden you find yourself, I'm kicking back like this. I'm like, why am I sitting like this? Oh, this is actually
part of the experience.
This is, you know. But you're getting deals done. It's like going to a golf course and stuff. But we have to recognize that for the most part, I don't know how. I know Nick young. All y'all look young. You can't tell. Black women, can't tell.
And you better not ask.
No, I ain't gonna ask. But don't ask for no birthday gifts. I can't know how old you are. Don't ask for no.
That's right.
You know my birthday. I didn't know you had a birthday. I thought you disappeared.
You don't have them. Yes.
So one of the things is that we are the elders. So, like I said, people tuning in, Sean twice, it makes me think she's young. Because, you know, anybody usually, hey, Sean. So we are the elders now. When my mother and father passed away, the first thing I realized, especially when my mother passed away in 2020, I was like, oh, I could feel the mantle shift. I could feel it shift, whether you're ready or not.
Yes, sir.
So take note. I remember asking my grandmother when I was cutting her hair one time, I ran into somebody who was looking at lineage of the family, and the older lady looked at me at this aquatic center. She was like, "Rawlings, yeah, you look like you laid the peat." And that's how I found out I was related to Stephanie Rawlings Blake, who was the mayor of Baltimore one time in the family. But her aunt saw me, looked at me, said, "Where are your people from?" I was like, "Cherry Hill." It's like, "Go a little further back." So I asked them if they from Calvert County. I asked my grandmother. It's the first time I had the conversation with my grandma on my father's side. "Any of us from Calvert County?" She said, "We all from Calvert County." And that one of the last comments she made to me before she passed away later, "We're all from Calvert County," started me on a lineage. It's those little things, those little things we don't ask. It's the things we don't ask, we don't say. And then also little conversations.
That's right.
That is so true. That goes back to the sitting at their feet.
Patience.
Piece that was so important. For me, it highlighted where the push for entrepreneurship came. I just listening to my grandmother, and she was like, "Yeah, I owned the grocery store in Black Bottom before the 75 they came and tore it up."
You own what?
Because
we used to plant our own chili. That's why I love chili so much. You're like, "Yeah, the chili farm?"
A whole chili farm.
Yeah, I used to think this Mexican guy. What?
Right. So for me, because I remember being a child first, about 9, 10. And so I was like, "I want some Nike." She was like, "Well, that's not in my budget. My budget say pay less. That's what you get. Unless you want to use the gifts that you have. Now you can create things. I didn't see you draw pictures. You can draw your pictures and sell them. You can make some jewelry. I'll pay. You can make T-shirts and stuff. I'll pay for the supplies the first time. But you're going to need to put aside money to buy your own supplies next time." And I went and started this girls club with people that I'm really still good with friends with now. And we started making things, and I'm drawing pictures, selling 25 cents to $3 for a photo, depending on how big it is. And, we're doing all of that. We earn our money. So now we're going to buy things for each other. But that sparked me into high school, where my grandmother was like, "Are you going to college? I can't afford to send you there. You got to figure it out. But you are a great writer. Maybe you can write some poems for somebody. Maybe you can, go ahead and talk to somebody else there and figure out how to get there. Your dues I can't pay for. You got to figure out how you're going to pay for it." And so it started this business called Surprising Gifts and Creations. I started making these personalized poems for my teachers and selling them $3. If you want to bear with it, it's $5. If you want $10. But I earned enough money to pay for my senior dues and my first semester of books in college, right? But learning, where did this come from? It came from her. She
gave you what she had.
Right.
Yeah.
She gave you what she had.
And that goes back to what we said before. Our parents give us what they have.
Give us what they have.
So we got to operate from a position of grace.
Yes. And gratitude.
And gratitude. I'll yield the mic. Turn it back over to you, Nick.
We sorry, Chantilly. This is good.
No, I'm loving this. I'm listening. Like, this is so good. Like, I'm getting a piece from everybody. Like, I'm literally in the scenario that you guys are talking about. And, I wondered for a long time too, like, where did I get this spirit of leadership? And that's what I see out of all of us. We all have some type of leadership. It's not about being independent. No, you were designed to be a leader.
You were birthed into leadership.
You were called to be creative and innovator. That's why you're able to host your own, I would say show, or have your own events, and you started your own writing publishing company because it was in you. Despite of the things we all had to endure, there is a gift inside of each and every one of us. There's an anointing, a mantle that's on us that we have to pursue, and we can't sleep on it. And so I really, what you was gonna say, Auntie?
Yeah, I want to stop and pause on that mantles that he was talking about, Troy.
Yes.
When, especially when you end up raising siblings.
Come on.
When there is, like I told you, my mom was the mom of her siblings. So when she passed away, I just could not understand all the pull on me.
Come on.
It didn't make sense. I'm like, I'm the niece. Y'all never call me. Y'all ain't never.
I'm the niece.
I come home.
I'm the niece.
I come home and y'all in the way. I can't take care of my mama because y'all in the way. So, I used to have to fight to try to care for her. And so I'm like, so why y'all all on me now? Because I'm the offspring of the one who was my mama. So you must be next.
Come on.
Yeah, you all are women, but a lot of times you don't know that that was the whole thing of the father. The whole thing of the father, the whole thing of them. Well, see, I can talk about this much. This is a spiritual thing. Some people may not get it. When there's someone out of position, God doesn't not pass it down.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no father there, but there's a mother there, and the mother is honoring God in whatever way, if God wants to pass something down, he passes it to the next one. When my grandmother was about to die, and she was dying from cancer, my mother's mother, my mother had left when she was like 15. She was hitting the streets, hiding the streets. I don't want nothing to do with it, abusing that. But as she was about to die, several daughters were nurses. My mother was a nurse. My grandmother wanted my mother to take care of her.
Right.
Because she knew my mother would take care of her the way she needed to be taken care of. My grandmother had certain things she wanted to pass down to my mother. My mother had a bitterness about her. It's certain things she didn't want to take because she didn't want it to look a certain way to the family. Be mindful of what I'm about to say. Sometimes, remember, bitterness is a poison that only kills you.
That's right.
So you got to be mindful that sometimes God does not care who he uses to get to you what he wants to get to you. It makes no difference to him. It could have been the person. It could have been the person who molested you. It makes no difference to him who he uses. So with my mom, I remember she was so upset because my grandmother gave my father she had like a Mark 8, some big car. My grandmother could hit the lottery. Like this folks who was playing, she could hit. She was like, oh, we got to get gifts for everybody. Let me go play the lottery. And would hit. She special nurse, singer, gospel singing nurse that played the lottery, probably the same bingo run. But you have to be mindful in those Nick, you're in a special position because your mom's still here.
That's right.
Whatever God wants to pass down to you through her, whether she knows it or not, it's going to come through her. You got to be able to receive it. And it only comes from forgiveness, patience, and being there. And my grandmother literally wanted to give my mother her house. Years later, I'm working before I was about to move to New York, I'm at this telemarketing, and it's been in my mind bigger than ever now. Some telemarketing, sister working telemarketing for me, needed a ride home. And I'm talking about that. I'm like, this is my old neighborhood. I go to take her to her house. And I'm like, you're not gonna believe this. I'm like, that's my grandmother's old house. I used to live there. She was like, oh my God, you miss Sally's nephew? Because my mother didn't take the house went to my aunt, who really couldn't take care of it. Wow. Family ended up losing or selling the house.
Wow.
And God has such a funny sense of humor that I would be working in a part-time telemarketing job, and the person would need a ride home who I don't know. And I take her to her home, and it's my grandmother's house. And I walked in.
Sir.
And the feeling, I've seen houses in my family get sold. When we talk about lineage and legacy, those things are important. And sometimes all it is the words that person has to give, but sometimes it's more than that. And the only thing that separates us from that is bitterness and unforgiveness. Mm-hmm. So be mindful during this time if you have parents, any of you guys who are watching this later, if you have parents that are alive, if you have grandparents alive, people are alive, and they're leaning on you, mm-hmm. and you're the one that's making the food, that's doing all this stuff, that you don't know who it's going to be. The Bible talks about the switching of hands.
Yes, sir.
When something is passed down. So you got to be mindful that whatever's coming to you, you don't know how it's going to get to you.
That's right.
Slow down. Slow down, because you don't know how it's going to get to you. There's some things that's trying to get to you or pass down to you. And a lot of times we're moving so fast, or we're so angry that we can't receive it.
That is so true. I do want to share this for those who are also watching. As things are being passed down, you're having all this responsibility placed on you, it's easy to become overwhelmed. It's still important for you to engage in self-care during this time you are parenting your parents, whether that is taking a long bath with a Merlot or something. Whatever your
Merlot bath.
Look here, a glass and some cheese. Whatever your self-care regimen is.
Glass and some cheese. Yeah, you're right.
You want to make sure you're doing that. For some people, that's scheduling your quarterly full body massage. At least that was one of mine. During COVID,
I saw the table back there.
Listen, they have.
She keep looking. I'm telling you what I know.
Lord, drop the table.
You know what I wish?
She keep looking over her shoulder. Something like that.
Vans though that will pull up to your house and you can get in the back.
Get in the van and
body massage.
Come on now.
So whatever
you're gonna take me back in the house when it's over.
Come on here.
That's what I want to know. Just want to know.
Make sure you're engaging in
Hey, Tabby Good. Huh? That's what Tabby Good.
She got a new nickname.
Tabby Good.
Tabby Good.
Tabby Good.
Lord. Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm in awe. You made some. It was so much that was said tonight. Y'all have to just watch the replay. Like, if you stayed on for this whole entire thing, good for you. Thank you so much for listening. There's still so much that has to be unpacked with this conversation, but I want to say what was already poured out tonight was dead on everything. I want to also say find the joy in the pain, because there's pain in this. Like, it's not easy. Yeah. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this. I'm gonna give it. We have about like 4 more minutes. We went over time, but that's okay. I want, if you can, Latresa, can you provide some signs of emotional or mental disturbance? Because there are some young people, and I did meet some people who are experiencing they've been thrown into a position of a parent, and no one's really telling them what's going on with their mom or with their dad. I know I was that person, and I had to get legal advice and what to do. How do I get her hospitalized legally without with that fight? So do you know of some can you give some examples of some emotional and mental disturbance, and then also offer what are some solutions and how to get help even when they are refusing?
Ooh, well, that's a lot. So I'll just look at a few of those things. Some of the things that you can look for is if that parent is no longer doing things they previously really loved to do. There could be some depression there. Are they typically sitting off by themselves and not conversing with anybody else? Do you see a lot of irritability? You say hi and they cuss you out. There's probably some signs of depression there as well. Are they forgetting things a lot? Memory loss. Maybe it's something that happened years ago and you talk to them about a memory and they say, well, I don't know. And you know for a fact it's something that occurred. Maybe there's something going on there that you need to explore. Are they cooking things and leaving it on the stove and starting fires? Those are alarming situations that can indicate that something is going on with them mentally. And you may need to look at getting custody, some sort of guardianship care, just to make sure your loved one is okay. Whether that's going down into the courts or whether that's actually getting a psychological. Now, there's a difference, psychologists and psychiatrists. Let me make sure we get that straight. Because a lot of times we assume they're the same and they're not. If there's some memory loss issues going on, then you need to see a psychologist. Right. They're the ones that's going to help diagnose that. If you're suspecting some sort of mental, maybe emotional, maybe it's depression, maybe it's something else going on with them, maybe it's Alzheimer's, whatever, you may be looking at a psychiatrist because there may be a medication need. All right. So we want to make sure we know who we're going to for what. That's so important. That way you're not just spinning your wheels.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is so good. And we're gonna make sure that we touch on that a little bit more in the second segment of this, because I know I had a few people asking me, where did you go? How did you get the help that you needed way back when? And so there's a lot of layers when it comes to becoming a guardian, what that goes into, dealing with the social workers, dealing with the social managers, dealing with, it's a whole team of people that's advocating for this person who has rights. And so there's so much that your family members don't know or don't understand, because you've been put in a position to take on this. It's a burden. It is a burden. It's not something that you probably wear, but it's something that you have to do. But I am grateful that God has put me in this position. It has caused me to slow down. It's caused me to look at, dealing with my mother and also building a relationship at this level. So I'm grateful for this position I'm in to help other people. And this was amazing tonight, you all. Thank you guys so much for pouring into our people and keeping it upbeat and finding the joy in the pain, laughing about it. Because I know I have many stories, even from being in the shelters, being in foster care. When I tell people about that, all they're focusing on is the pain part. They say, how in the world you got all these amazing stories through this pain? Because I learned through the years how to find the joy through it all. And so that's where my wisdom comes from. Just finding the peace, through everything. So again, I'm grateful to have you all here on tonight. Thank you so much, Auntie Tab. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Latresa, so much. You guys make sure you stay tuned for next week. We'll be back on for Candid Conversation, and we're going to be talking about the benefits of ghosting. And I'll be sharing my story of my recent dating experience, and I'm going to help a lot of women. Okay, the do's and don'ts of dating and using your discernment and getting out of Dodge. Like, you guys do not want to miss out on that. I will have my special guest, Leon Walker. He's amazing. He is a recovering narcissist, and he's a relationship coach today. So grateful to have him. He'll be on with us next week. Same time, 7 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on YouTube and Facebook Live. Again, you guys have any final words you want to say before I close out?
I will. If anyone is struggling with seeing the fact that you're being called to steward over someone, I would ask that you would lean into this great opportunity that God wants to do to use you. He's not only going to use you for them, he's pulling something out of you for you. And so if you can begin to ask him for the grace, because I know it's a lot of weight to carry. It's a burden. It's heavy lifting. But when he graces you to do it, he lifts the burden and he gets under the load. And there's so much joy and fulfillment you find in being the hands, the heart, and the help of God for your loved one.
That's awesome.
There are benefits in stewardship. I just want to share that. There are definitely benefits in stewardship. And what comes to mind is Elisha and Elijah. You need to make sure you stay in position.
Yes.
Don't look at this from a negative perspective, but look at it from a perspective of God has given me great gifts and he trusts me with this mantle.
Trust me
that I'm receiving.
Yeah.
If you feel like you're being pushed to you want to jump out of something, and it may not just be like taking care of your parents or a loved one or anything like that. It may be a job. It may be a job that you're at, but you want to start your business. But each time you start stepping out, something pulls you back. There may be something else you got to get there. So a place I'm ready to move out of this place. I'm ready to get a new place. But something keeps saying, wait, sometimes I had to realize sometimes you're going through stuff and, if I plan on being a landlord one day, what do I need to learn in the process?
Training.
There's a lot. And I think we're in a time where rest and patience is cool. is something that we were supposed to really get out of 2020, 2021, but we jumped back into the flow. I know some people who were working damn near 7-day work weeks who cut their days pretty short now. And we got to get mindful about our rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sabbath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, if all minds and hearts are clear, thank you all so much again for coming on. And yes, they'll be back. As the Lord put things together for 2023, I gotta have you guys back. This was amazing. Again, guys, you guys all have a good night, and I will see you all on next Friday.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.